Welcome to my build of the Polar Lights 1:1000 scale USS Voyager NCC 74656. It is no secret that the series was never my favourite, but I always loved the ship. When built, it will be approximately 14 inches in length. Not a huge number of parts to this one, but very well detailed, and as you can see, it's moulded in translucent plastic, which will make lighting it easier. Because it's translucent as opposed to clear, the windows, when lit, will look more natural. As the windows are oblong shaped, I'm not going to drill them as it would be difficult to have them all uniform, so instead, I light blocked the saucer and hull on the outside and scraped the paint out of the windows with a toothpick. This worked out very well with my Titanic build. So first off, wash the parts in warm water to remove any residue before painting. I'll complete the upper saucer as well to have it as seamless as possible. Now I'll mask the parts to begin light blocking. And then a couple of coats of Humbrol 33 acrylic black to block any light. For the main colour of the ship, I'm going to use Tamiya XF19. Again, a couple of coats of this will be required here. Once dry, take a toothpick and carefully scrape out the windows. The toothpick works fine for the bigger windows. The smaller ones, I used a pin and the tip of a craft knife. And that turned out perfectly. All uniform, and again, because the plastic was translucent as opposed to clear, the windows look more natural when lit. There is still a bit of light leak, but it's going to get another coat and panelling which will rectify that. The grills and reflector come in clear plastic, which makes it easier to mod them. First off, I'll spray the inside of the grills and reflector a clear blue with Tamiya X23. Then mask the grills with tape and spray on a light coating of copper, Tamiya XF6. So copper when they're off, blue when they're on. To give the hull a panel effect, I'll begin masking off the areas I want highlighted. For the raised areas, I used Tamiya XF20 and XF91 for the phaser arrays, with an additional black line just to add some definition. Then spray the thrusters copper. The impulse engines XF91 grey. And the intercooler assembly a sand yellow. However, in the day or so that followed, I decided I didn't like the dark grey for the phasers, so I mixed some yellow, brown and white together and resprayed them, and came up with this. I redid the black line as well, and I think that looks much better. Onto the lighting, and because this is the 1:1000 scale, I wasn't able to use bulbs everywhere as the parts wouldn't have fitted together properly, as I have only 3mm and 5mm bulbs. To light the main hull, 3 LED strips will do fine. The bottom one won't actually be needed. Using 30 gauge cable, I use red for positive and black for negative, solder them to the strips and place on the hull. A quick test and that is lighting perfectly. Put 2 extra long strips of cable onto the LED that will feed down into the body of the ship, which will later join to the other red and black cables. Because I can't use too many bulbs due to the size of the ship, for the navigation lights I used fibre optic cable, snipped it at the base and painted the tips red and green. Then prepare 2 3mm clear bulbs with resistors and place over the fibre optic cable. 1 bulb either side of the bulb should be enough. A light test and that's fine. To protect the solder joints, I always use hot glue. For the flashing nav lights on the top and bottom hull, I'll construct a variable circuit board. To differentiate between cables, for the flashing nav lights, I use orange for negative and purple for positive. Because these will connect onto the circuit board, there's no need to add a resistor. I put them in place and set the joined orange and purple cables together with 2 other lengths, 1 pair to connect to the top saucer and another to run down into the body, which will connect later. Once all joined, solder to the circuit board. Now solder a red and black cable to the board, which will also run down into the body. Then I set the variable resistor to flash about 3 or 4 seconds. To light the deflector dish, I put a small LED in place and connected another red and black cable to it, which will all join together later. A quick test and I like the speed of the nav lights. As all the lighting is coming from the bottom section, all that needs to be done for the top is to drill 2 holes for the nav lights and 2 for the port and starboard lights, and put fibre optic cable in place, painting the tip of the cables for the port and starboard red and green, exactly the same as the bottom section. Onto the nacelles, and where the navigation lights are supposed to be I can't use, as the joining piece of plastic is in the way, so I wouldn't be able to put a bulb there. So I smoothed the top down, filled with putty and drilled a few millimetres forward. A red bulb for the buzzard collector and then red and green for port and starboard, and an LED strip to light the grills. Place a small piece of light diffusing paper over the grill so the individual bulbs from the LED won't be noticeable. Add longer red and black cables to feed down into the body and seal it up. And I think that turned out very well. There is a noticeable bit of light leak from the impulse engine, but that's easily remedied. Onto the rear section, the shuttle bay and engineering, and again I'll use fibre optic cable for the port and starboard lights and a couple of strips of LEDs, which will be plenty to light up the windows in this area. Put the nacelles in place and fasten the shuttle bay section on. I added another small LED strip to catch the windows near the back and for the shuttle bay doors, as I'm going to leave it slightly open. I've also joined the red and black cables for the nacelles and the shuttle bay together. Now take the red and black cables from the main hull section, join together, then join them to the nacelle ones, red to red of course, black to black. Once joined and soldered, fit the bottom of the hull to the engineering section. Now join the purple and orange cables from the top of the hull to the bottom. I didn't video the next bit, I don't know why, but I placed the top piece on using a strong super glue. I always do, to ensure the hull is going nowhere. For the stand, drill a hole so the DC connector can be secured onto it, and then fit the connector in place. Feed the red and black cable down through the rod and solder it onto the DC connector. And that's that. The Intrepid class starship is complete. All that was left to do was put on the decals, which I did, and give it a couple of coats of matte varnish. Very happy the way it turned out. It can now take its place with the rest of the fleet. Until the next model, which is going to be the Galileo shuttlecraft from the original Star Trek series, hailing frequencies closed. If you liked what you saw, please hit the like and subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell too. Thank you.